Now, this part shall begin, and I already see the audience is already up, like, holy crap. I just want to make sure, are we all good on this end? And yes, things are turned on. That's great, that's great. Alright, yes, and, hello, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And this week, holy crap, there have been a lot of things that were really unexpected, but it will all come down for a really fun and very fascinating episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Now, before I go ahead and begin, I would just like to go and start things off by saying thank you to everybody who has wished me a happy birthday, because yesterday, or at least the day before I recorded this for those who are listening later on in the future, it was my birthday, and I did spend a wonderful time with my family. We went out to a restaurant, got some amazing gifts. I'm playing with them right now. I'm having a lot of fun. I actually got Nintendo Labo, so I'm playing around with cardboard, and it'll be complicated to explain to others, but so far, it does bring me back to my days of college when I was just making sculptures out of cardboard. I was the only one in my class that actually enjoyed that. But also at the same time, in order to keep myself happy yesterday, I had to make sure I tried to avoid the news as much as possible, because with the whole Kavanaugh thing going on and it's buzzing around on social media, oh boy, man, this is exactly why people from around the world hate Americans, I'm just saying. But, yeah, overall, this is just to say that thank you to everybody who has wished me a happy birthday, and even on the chat wall right now, I'm seeing that everybody is saying happy birthday to me as well, so I thank you all so much, and I guess we could partly say that this could be a birthday episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So, with all that said and done, are you guys ready to begin this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? So, are we all ready, ladies and gentlemen? I just want to see in the chat wall if we are all prepared. Alright, let's see. Yep, we got some readiness. We still have more happy birthdays and stuff like that. That's very nice of you guys. Okay, perfect. Alright, I think we are all good, and we shall go ahead and get things started onto our first story. And before I begin on this one, I just want to start things off by saying that, to be honest, beforehand, I was a bit hesitant to talk about this story in particular, mainly because this is actually going to be about a trailer. And for me, a part of me just didn't want to watch it at all. I refused to watch it. I just wanted to move on and just wait. Not because I have anything against the project, but more because we are getting close to the release date, and seeing any more clips of it would feel like spoilers. And I feel like it would be much better if I would just watch it in theaters when the movie would come out, so that I could have all the surprises at that point, than to get all the surprises right now. You know what I mean? But, I still got a whole bunch of people asking me my thoughts on it, or if I have seen it. That, and also, I wouldn't technically do justice this week for this episode in particular, especially the factor when Sony's Venom came out in theaters. And lo and behold, it actually turned out to be a turd in the wind. Yeah, so welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the all-new Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. But I can guarantee you that I think we can all unanimously agree, or almost factual at this point, that what we are about to see will not be a turd in the wind, and will definitely turn out to be quite better than Venom. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and check out the second trailer to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And here we go.
Do animals talk in this dimension? Because I don't want to freak them out.
Okay, and And that was the trailer for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, or at least the second trailer to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And let me just go and start things off by saying that I think it is actually very clear at this point that the marketers at Sony, they really took notes here. Because you could tell that this actually did have a very strong vibe that's a little bit similar to the trailers that we have seen to Ralph Breaks the Internet. Like, they saw how the Ralph Breaks the Internet trailers, they would get trending, it got a lot of people talking about it, but mainly because of the big crossover aspect with all the Disney princesses and stuff like that. And I feel like that's kind of the same selling point that they are showing right here. Like, the more important factor is that, okay, let's not keep any of our big surprises for just the movie. Let's go and show them off to people and see, like, the big crossover of all the different Spider-Man. You know, like, we got the OG Spider-Man, we got Miles Morales Spider-Man, but on top of that, we also see Gwen Stacy being a little more prominent because in the last trailer, she was just there like a surprise cameo. It's like, oh, by the way, Gwen Stacy is here, but she does look like she will have a bit of a bigger part here. We also see Nicolas Cage as Spider-Man Noir. We also see the anime Spider-Man, which I believe is called Penny Parker from what I've heard. And of course, Spider-Ham. So basically, that's kind of the big selling point here is how everybody is all coming together. Like, you are going to have all these different Spider-Man coming in and fighting off many of the bad guys, including Kingpin and also Scorpion. So you're going to have like this major hodgepodge. Like, this is supposed to be this giant collab of all the Spider-Mans coming together. And I'm not gonna lie, before watching this, I did feel a little bit nervous. And to be honest, I was worried if this was going to be a bit like style over substance, that they are going to focus so much onto the animation that they might end up disregarding the script and it might come off as weak. And honestly, that is a little bit of my criticism with what they are showing here in the trailer, that it could be a bit possible right over here that the story might turn out to be, like, the story could become a little bit generic in a sense. Like, this does feel like your typical crossover style of story, like something that you would normally find in Kingdom Hearts or even the That Guy with the Glasses anniversary specials. So it does have a bit of that familiarity, and that's the one aspect that I am not sure. But after seeing this trailer, it does seem very well balanced. Like, of course, the animation, like, it is absolutely mind-blowing, especially with seeing all the different animation styles coming together. Like, we got the anime look, you got a more noir look, of course, with Spider-Man Noir, no pun intended, like, all trying to capture the comic book feel. And then you also got Spider-Ham. Okay, now I just want to say right now about Spider-Ham, yes, it is true that a lot of people are really excited that Miles Morales is going to have his own movie with Into the Spider-Verse. But Spider-Ham, he's a show stealer here. Like, holy crap. He has some of the best moments in this trailer alone. Like, even just coming out like, yes, it can get weirder. I am a pig. And also, on top of that, like, my favorite moment is, of course, the ending. The way this trailer ended, where they're all on top, and he's just asking, like, just casually, do animals talk in this universe? I don't want to freak him out. Like, that was actually great. That was honestly hilarious. And on top of that, the animation style is actually really good, with the way that they are going a lot more 2D and a lot more Looney Tunes in a sense. And this is actually quite fascinating, considering this is coming from Sony, a company who is infamous for having directors that don't understand the principles of animation in CGI, like Genndy Tartakovsky or Tony Leondis. But in here, it's actually nice for a change that they did actually get some cartoony animation right here. So it is actually pretty welcoming and pretty fascinating with what they're trying to do with the animation. But on top of that, you also got the characters as well, and they do seem very likable. Now, there is a chance that many of these Spider-Men, they're mostly going to be there just for a cameo, and that's pretty much it. Like, Spider-Man Noir, Penny Parker, and Spider-Ham, they could be in this movie as much as the Disney princesses are going to be in Ralph Breaks the Internet. But it doesn't change the factor that Miles Morales is the star. And that's what this trailer is trying to tell us, that it is still Miles's movie at the beginning, and Peter Parker will be there, but more as a mentor. But also at the same time, if I just want to take a little bit of a comment about Peter Parker, like, I don't know if this is just me, but right at the beginning when Peter Parker was trying to explain a little bit of himself, it really did feel like Deadpool. Like, they were definitely going in a Deadpool direction with the way that they were introducing Peter Parker. And not only that, but you do see, going into this, like, they would go and actually bring back a lot of moments from the Sam Raimi movies, like the Upside Down Kiss. You also got, like, plenty of different moments. Just want to, hold on a sec, like, just play a little bit. Like, you got, like, the train when Spider-Man is trying to stop the train. Let's advance a little bit. Or, like, when he's having his dinner date with Mary Jane. Like, you got, there's a lot of throwback into that. And, on top of that, like, as it would continue, like, you would have Spider-Man talking about the fact that, hey, I'm in comic books, I have a cereal, I have a Christmas album, and I got a popsicle. Like, that definitely did feel something like they would do in the Deadpool movies. But also, however, I will say that, yeah, it definitely is funny. Like, especially with the popsicle aspect. Like, that was definitely a good reference right there. But with all that, like, bringing up all these different Spider-Man and bringing up all these different references and stuff like that, I'm sure this comparison has already been made, but it, like, just from this trailer, it definitely does have this feel of the Lego Batman movie. Not necessarily meant to be a satire on Spider-Man in general, but just having all these different throwbacks, both of popular aspects of Spider-Man and even some of the more obscure absence, let me rephrase that, some of the more obscure assets of Spider-Man. Like, they're throwing all these references at once onto this one major picture. And of course it does make sense, especially the factor that Phil Lord and Chris Miller are executive producers on this film, like they were in the Lego Batman movie. And on top of that, we do have Phil Lord being the writer in this movie. But I will say that, yes, overall, it does look like 2018 is going to end off with a major bang with animation, and I am definitely excited for this. This definitely looks like it's going to be a lot of fun, and honestly, yeah, I actually do have some high hopes for this movie. So yeah, this, honestly, with this trailer of Into the Spider-Verse, it definitely did sell me, and yeah, I'm a lot more optimistic, and I'm a lot more excited to see what this thing will deliver. Maybe it's not going to turn out to be, like, perfect, but I think this will be something that will be very fun, very exciting, and will definitely show that, yeah, animation can actually do a superhero movie, and maybe not necessarily a superhero satire movie like what we got with Lego Batman movie and Teen Titans Go to the movies. But with that said, before I would continue onto the chat wall right over here, I would like to mention something else related to Spider-Man, because it's honestly very fascinating throughout the whole week when it comes to the subject of Spider-Man, because it's probably the most talked about thing throughout the entire week, other than Kavanaugh and all that kind of crap, of course. But going back into Spider-Man, it's not just because of this Into the Spider-Verse trailer that it really did get trending and a lot of people really did go and talk about it, but also because of the release of Venom and also the early reactions. And what I find to be very fascinating on that aspect is actually the fact that never have I seen such polar opposite reactions related to the same subject, and that is Sony and Spider-Man. Because on one hand, you got Venom, and from there, I've seen so many people that are pissed off at Sony. Like, throughout the whole week, there has been a lot of anger against Sony, how they're such a terrible company making terrible movies, and especially with Venom turning out to be an absolute disgrace. So yeah, there was a lot of Sony rage this week, and for once, it's not coming from me, actually. But yeah, you do get the idea of how there have been a lot of negative reception of Venom lately. But then on the other hand, you got Into the Spider-Verse. And that one, it really got a lot of people excited. It really got a lot of people really hopeful about it. Like, it's honestly a bit debatable if people are excited for Into the Spider-Verse probably as much or maybe even more than they were excited when Spider-Man Homecoming was about to come out. You know, that could be a bit debatable, but yeah, this is on, like, with Into the Spider-Verse, people are really optimistic that this is going to turn out to be a great animated feature, and honestly, it really got a lot of people excited on the subject of Sony and Spider-Man. So, from there, it actually did get me thinking a little bit, and I figured, why not go onto social media, and I decided to go and ask the big question that people have been debating for years about. And I went to go on Facebook, on Twitter, and even on YouTube to go and ask the big question. So after we've seen the reception of both Venom and this Into the Spider-Verse trailer, should Sony sell the movie rights of Spider-Man to Disney and Marvel? So I did get the results, and it's actually quite interesting, and it's almost similar on every ground. And from the results that I got a little bit from Facebook, where I managed to gather more than 150 votes. And then there is Twitter, where I got more than 400 votes. And then on YouTube, I got a whopping near 2,000 votes. I think people can still vote there, but yeah, it is getting close to a total of 2,000 votes from all that major question. So, collecting all the data that I got, what I have gathered so far is that apparently, like, the broadest that I can go with it is that somewhere between 80 and 85% of people all say that, yes, Sony should sell the movie rights of Spider-Man to Disney and Marvel. Now, of course, there are some people that did respond no to that question, and they were actually a lot more vocal as to why. And there have been some interesting reasons as to why they would explain, and some of them are understandable. Like, there have been a lot of them that would say, or probably the majority of the reason would actually be because they're actually very hopeful for Into the Spider-Verse, and they want to wait and see how this one goes, and hopefully maybe it'll encourage Sony to go and make more movies based on this, that maybe we could get spin-offs of, like, Spider-Man Noir, or even a whole Spider-Ham movie. Then there are also a significant few that would say that they want to defend Sony, but probably the funniest ones are actually the ones that are against Disney. And I say that they're the funniest mainly because they're actually the most aggressive in terms of their response. Like, when they would say no, they would be like, "No! Disney has too many things right now! They already bought 20th Century Fox! They should not have a monopoly on Hollywood! They should not buy any more things! That is it! Sony should keep Spider-Man, and they should not have it! No! Nothing more!" You know, they would go crazy just like that. But yeah, overall, once again, this is just to say that around 80 to 85% of people do want to see Disney sell the rights to, no, not Disney, but for Sony to sell the movie rights of Spider-Man to Disney and Marvel. And if I may go put in my 2 cents on this, I'm just going to say that, for me, I would say yes, because here's the thing. Yeah, as exciting and awesome as Into the Spider-Verse looks so far, Sony has stated many, many times that this is just meant to be its own standalone movie. Like, they're not necessarily interested in making more of it or trying to develop an entire franchise. Like, for this, Into the Spider-Verse is just its own thing so far. But with Venom, that film is a lot more important to Sony because that's not just a movie. That's an entire beginning of a whole superhero cinematic universe that would put Sony Pictures in competition with Marvel and DC. And from there, with the reception of Venom so far, yeah, it has an awful start. So far, this whole cinematic universe that they're trying to develop, it just made a very terrible first impression. Like I said before, Venom is now becoming the new Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. And I know there are going to be some people who will tell me, oh, but AniMat, it looks like Venom is going to do great at the box office. It's going to break records. Well, yeah, so did Batman v Superman when that film came out. It broke record at the box office and it became a major hit. But look at the film now. Look at its reputation. And look at the DC Extended Universe so far. It turned out to be a freaking disaster. And especially with Venom right now, you know when things are looking bad for that movie when Turd in the Wind is now becoming the new Martha. So that's kind of the problem so far with Venom. So I do feel like for Sony, it would be wiser for them, in order to save themselves from any more backlash and humiliation, that yeah, they should sell the rights to Spider-Man so that they don't have to deal with any of that crap anymore. Like maybe later on in 2019, like somewhere in the spring, so that they can go and profit off of Into the Spider-Verse, like get their money's worth off of that and then give the movie rights away. But so far, I'm just going to say right now that, yeah, like, things are really not looking good for Sony with the rights of Spider-Man. So, overall, I would say, yeah, they should sell the rights because regardless of the results, we are going to get more Spider-Man films in the future. And I do feel like it would be much wiser that we might as well give the rights to the actual competent studio that actually does know what they're doing and know how to make movies. So that's honestly my 2 cents on that thing. But with all that said, though, let us now go into the chat wall, and I would like to ask, what do you guys think of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and what do you think of the brand new trailer that we have seen? Are you guys excited for it? Do you guys like it? Did you guys not like it? And also at the same time, you can also go and express your thoughts. Do you think that Sony should sell the rights to, should Sony sell the rights to Spider-Man and give it all to Disney? What do you guys think on all this? Okay, let's see now. The trailer looks really good and the animation is amazing. It's about Sony Animation made it's about time Sony Animation made a trailer to a movie, to a movie that might actually be good. Bravo, Sony, bravo. Very excited for this movie. I love Spider-Man and this will give me memories of how I loved Spider-Man when I was little. Alright, that sounds very nice. Let's see. I have faith in the movie and been excited for this since the teaser trailer last year. So I want to know if you think this movie will be better than Surf's Up and may get the seal of approval. Well, I mean, you can't really say for sure, but all I could say is maybe so far. It does, like, the trailer, I would say, really does look promising, so we'll have to see on that. The film looks like it'll be in the levels of Spider-Man 2 and Homecoming. It has amazing animation, the Sam Raimi references are really clever, the story is really engaging, and Spider-Ham is God. However, if Spider-Man OG doesn't say, Miles, I don't feel so good, and then vanishes, I am just out. Oh my god. Well, I don't know if they would actually do that reference, because you still gotta keep in mind that, like, Avengers Infinity War is still new, so I mean, they would have to pull off some quick last-minute shots in order to go and make that kind of reference. So, don't put your hopes up if you're hoping for actual references to what recently happened to Spider-Man this year. Alright, let's see so far. Might not be looking for it since I'm looking forward to Wreck-It Ralph 2 because it is my birthday week, which is November 26th. The video is buffering. Okay, so that's interesting. So yeah, it does look like people have seen, it does seem to look like people are extremely excited for this trailer right over here. So yeah, it looks like people so far have some very, very high hopes to Into the Spider-Verse, and I do have some very high hopes as well. So, the movie is said to be coming out on December 14th, so let us wait and see with how this movie will actually go. Actually, hold on a sec, we got one more thing just to read. I don't like the idea for Sony to sell the rights to Disney. I just seen Venom yesterday. It is still not, it's still not for me, I should say, but not hateable as Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm still excited for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse so far, but I'll wait and see how Venom does well at the box office with audiences liking this movie so far. according to Rotten Tomatoes score. Not necessarily. Not from the people that I'm seeing, and you can't really trust audiences' scores from websites like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes, because you never know when they can just easily rig it just like that. So, in terms of audiences, I would just say at best it is very mixed, because for the most part on social media, the reactions that I've seen, yeah, people seem to really hate it. I'm just saying. So, with all that said, let us go ahead now and we shall move on to our next story, in which we shall be looking into another trailer, and this time it will be filled with a lot of action once again, just like what we've seen here, but a different kind of action. It's not going to be with spiders or Spider-Man characters, it's actually going to be filled with pandas. And what I got here is actually going to be Kung Fu Panda, the Paws of Destiny, which is going to be the upcoming animated series based on the DreamWorks animated films that's going to be coming out on Amazon. Yes, this one is not going to be for Netflix. This is going to be a part of DreamWorks Animation trying to expand their streaming service branch, and they're also going to be helping out Amazon as well. Now, before we go and get things started and look at the trailer right over here, I want to go and read to you guys the official synopsis of what this show is going to be about. And I'm just going to read from my source here in Collider, as it states, Kung Fu Panda, the Paws of Destiny, follows the adventures of 4 eccentric panda kids, Nu Hai, Bao, Jing, and Fan Tong. When the friends stumble upon a mystical cave beneath Panda Village, they have no idea they're about to absorb the chi, or energy, of ancient kung fu warriors known as the 4 constellations. Now it's up to them to save the world from an evil force, but first, Master Po must teach them how to use their newfound powers. Based on traditional Chinese astronomy, the 4 constellations, Blue Dragon, Black Tortoise, White Tiger, and Red Phoenix, are said to have been the first warriors to achieve total mastery of Qi. For a few millennia ago, the masters used their power to defeat their corrupt teacher, Jin Diao. Worried that their good Qi couldn't exist without a powerful dark Qi to balance it out, the masters then sealed themselves into an underground temple to keep the world safe. Little did they know that Jin Diao lives, albeit in the new body of a vulture. If Jin... excuse me, that is my lunch that wants to say hello. Redo of that. If Jin Diao can absorb the 4 constellations' chi and restore himself to his true form, the world will be in grave danger. Okay, so, with all that said and done, now let us go into our second trailer to check out, and here it is, DreamWorks Kung Fu Panda, the Paws of Destiny.
Awesome! I taught you that! I totally taught her that!
Okay, well, I will say that is a bit, that is interesting. Because I will give the show this. The concept does sound pretty good. This does sound like a pretty decent continuation of what to do after Kung Fu Panda 3. Adding in more Chinese elements, you know, like mythology, and in this case, astronomy, going into those elements and trying to incorporate that into the world of Kung Fu Panda and add into that legend, add into that lore, especially with the idea of having these 4 masters now having their power onto these new kids. And also, it is fun to see Po gradually evolving his role from being a student to now he is going to be the Shifu in all this. Well, technically we did see a little bit of that in Kung Fu Panda 3, but in this case right over here, we do actually see more him being the teacher role, trying to teach these kids how to do Kung Fu, and especially how to use their powers and stuff like that, along with seeing a lot more characters coming back, maybe not necessarily like the Furious 5 and all that stuff, but we do see, I forgot his name. We do see the return of, like, Master Oogway, and we do also see, of course, Poe's dad as well. What's James? Hold on. What's James Hong's character? Mr. Ping. There we go. I need to jog my memory a little bit on Kung Fu Panda, but yeah, as you can see, it definitely does have that legend, and it does want to continue the story of Kung Fu Panda. So in terms of that effort right there, I could definitely see it. And even the animation, I'll give it, it's not too bad. Sure, it's not in the quality of the movies, but you know, for like a TV show, like computer animation TV show with what they're displaying here, it's actually not that bad, and it definitely is a major step up compared to the last Kung Fu Panda series, because I'm not gonna lie, the last TV show, I think it was like, what, The Secret of Awesomeness or something like that? Yeah, that kind of looked a bit like crap, I'm not gonna lie. But this one definitely does look a bit better, especially with the use of special effects, so they have definitely improved the quality onto that. But in terms of the execution of this, yeah, that thing is not selling me right there. Like, especially, it's more regarding the humor. Like, I can definitely see some of the Kung Fu Panda style humor, like that Jack Black style of jokes that you could see in Kung Fu Panda. Like, some of it is kind of prominent right over here, and even the voice actor, like the guy replacing Jack Black, which I believe is Mick Wingert. He's actually not that bad. Like, he doesn't 100% sound like Jack Black, but he does got a lot of his mannerisms, so he is doing a good job at it. Not a great job, but definitely a good job impersonating Jack Black. But in terms of the other jokes, especially coming from the kids, they're just like, ugh. That's honestly kind of the air that I am getting with this TV show so far. It just feels pretty, ugh. That's my problem. And honestly, just watching all of that, it's hard to really sell, especially when the weakest asset that I feel in this is actually the kids, which are supposed to be the main stars of the whole show. Like, these are supposed to be the characters that we should care about, the characters that have absorbed this chi, and that they should be the heroes that we should be rooting for. Like, they're definitely not like the characters from Troll Hunters. Like, they're not up to that level for sure. So that's honestly the biggest obstacle for me from being impressed by this trailer or to even want to watch Kung Fu Panda and the Paws of Destiny. It's more the factor of the kids that their jokes are not really working. It's not, you know, I'm not saying they're hateable characters, but it's just really, they're just pulling off bad jokes, and it's not something that I am that impressed about. Especially there was that one little moment, just to back up a little bit. Hold on a sec. Yeah, like there's one gag that they would even just, yeah, this is taken directly off of like the movie and stuff like that. So they're just copying off of that. So honestly, it's not really that impressive, especially if they're just going to be reusing jokes from the original Kung Fu Panda. So yeah, for me, I do feel like it is a bit iffy so far. So yeah, I am honestly a bit on the fence of that whole thing right there. I am a bit iffy, and I'm still not really sure if I would be interested, especially for someone like me. Like, I really do like the Kung Fu Panda movies. I love Kung Fu Panda 1, I love Kung Fu Panda 2, I did like Kung Fu Panda 3. It is the weakest of the trilogy, but still a very impressive movie nonetheless. But with this one, it is very mixed. I don't like the kids, the jokes kind of fall flat, but I will give it that it does look like it has some really good animation, and it does look like it has this epic style kind of story where it would follow in the footsteps of leading to something bigger, you know, something like Tales of Arcadia or even Avatar: The Last Airbender. It could go into that direction. So, I don't know, for me, I just feel like I am pretty mixed with this trailer in particular. So, yeah, it is a bit of a hard sell for me, but they would probably have to do a little more than this if they want to go and try to convince someone like me. So, with that said and done, I would like to go into the chat wall, and I would like to, I want to ask you guys, what do you think of Kung Fu Panda, The Paws of Destiny? Are you impressed by the trailer? Does it make you want to check out the show for yourself? Are you guys a little hesitant? Are you not purely sure about this? I would like to know what you guys think of this trailer in particular. Okay, let's see if anyone has anything interesting to say. As much as I love the Kung Fu Panda movies, this doesn't look all that good. I'm not saying that it looks downright bad, but with the way the main character of the movies is being sidelined for cute kid characters, this could very much be like Alpha and Omega sequel, but I'll try and go with an open mind. After all, it is Kung Fu Panda, but one question remains. Why is this going on Amazon Prime when DreamWorks has sold their souls to Netflix? Well, that's the thing, though, is that DreamWorks has actually also signed up with, they signed up with Amazon in order to make shows for them as well. And they already have a few series going on at Amazon. There was some of you might have forgotten, but the Rocky and Bullwinkle show, they do have a new Rocky and Bullwinkle series that is on Amazon right now. So this is just a part of it, to really emphasize the DreamWorks brand onto Amazon. And with DreamWorks, they really want to expand all their branches so that they could dominate the streaming service industry, to go and make TV shows, not just for Netflix, but also Amazon, and I think they're also going with Hulu as well. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if they will. So that's kind of the big thing so far, is that they want to go and try to expand their branches. Okay, let's see. I am a bit skeptical about this show, but I'll wait and see how this show turns out, because after all, my sister used to watch the Kung Fu Panda movies a lot. So yeah, I am starting to get the feeling that maybe it's not just me in this case. It's just, I see a lot of reactions so far. People seem to be a bit iffy about this show. There's just something, the kids aren't really that good, but there's some good aspects. Like, you can't really say this looks bad, I see a lot of mixed reactions so far. It's very fascinating. It's interesting. I'm not the only one. This is my first time watching a live stream of AniMat here. Does it have any always buffer like this? Honestly, I don't. Oh, well, that's a bit off subject, but I don't know. I guess it depends on your connection, or maybe it's just me, or I don't know. I'll probably have to double check on that. Okay, but I see so far, yeah, it does look like overall people do have some mixed reactions over this, so it looks promising. I'll give it that it has some good animation and an interesting concept, but the execution might need a little bit more work, and maybe it might need to show us a little bit more in order to sell us. Now, it did mention when this is going to be coming out on, it is going to be coming out on Amazon Prime, so if you guys are interested, this series will be coming out on November 16th, and that is when you will be fully sure to know, is this a good series or not? Okay, now, with that said, let us now go on to our next trailer, and don't worry, this is going to be our final trailer that we are going to check out, and interestingly enough, this is also going to be another series from DreamWorks Animation that will be on a streaming service that will be filled with adventure. And yes, this is actually going to be regarding a character that I have discussed a few times, or at least once, in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So now let us go back and meet up with everyone's favorite animated teenager that haters are complaining that she is not hot enough and that she looks too much like a boy. Alright, I'm just joking around. Anyways, let's go into the full trailer of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
She-Ra and the Princesses of Power.
Well now.
Adora.
Okay. Here, just need a quick refresh a little bit just to get more stats. Okay. Well, I'm going to say this. This definitely looks a lot more promising than Kung Fu Panda Paws of Destiny. Wow, okay. So I am going to say that with this trailer right over here, yeah, I'm honestly really impressed. This actually looks like this is going to be a big, complex series that will really dive deep into its own lore. And like, maybe the biggest complaint that people could have with this trailer in particular is that maybe it might have revealed a little bit too much. Like, it did give us like a whole lot about what this series is going to be about, but yeah, this thing really did deliver a lot on what this is going to be about. And honestly, it's with the whole story that I feel very impressed with. Just going into this, we do have a factor that the girl that's going to be She-Ra in this case, like, she reminds me a lot of Finn in the recent Star Wars trilogy with episode 7, 8, and 9 and all that stuff, where, like, she was a part of the villains, but now, like, something did happen to her where she does have a change of heart. Like, this would be if Finn would actually be the main character of the whole Star Wars trilogy instead of Rey. Like, if Finn would have a lot more focus onto that. And especially the factor that they really did go down a lot into its lore, like what the villains are all about, and also the story with all the princesses and seeing all their different types of abilities. Like, now, yeah, I could definitely do understand that it is pretty justifiable for people to make comparisons with Steven Universe, especially with seeing all the different types of characters having different sorts of abilities. Also with the color palette as well, how it is a little bit more bright. And like, you see right over here, like, you see the elements, like the colors are a bit more flashy, and they do focus on like different powers and stuff like that, and going into different adventures. Yeah, you know, I could see where Steven Universe can have a bit of an influence right over here. So, of course, there is going to be a chance that you're going to get those idiots who are going to be complaining and use SJW as a bad thing to describe this. But I will say, also, just going into it, it also looks like it is going to care a lot about its characters, especially with the relationship between She-Ra and Katara. Just seeing this dynamic right over here, it does look like it is going to be something that will spice things up here. So, you know, this is also going to be a series that will be having a lot of layers into it, that DreamWorks did put in a lot of care to make it something that even in just season 1, there will be a lot of substance to hold on to. That, and also, I just want to add also that the voice acting is actually really well done. Like, that definitely does sound like it's something that people do have a lot of range in. You can definitely tell a lot of the different like some of the different how can I put this? It definitely does seem like something that will have a lot of different emotions that are going to be behind the characters, so they definitely do need some strong characters in order to deliver performances like this. So, definitely good on the voice actors, and even the animation. As I stated before, of course, a lot of it does look like it's going to be highly influenced to what DreamWorks has done with Voltron, which they did reveal recently is going to have its final series. So this could be kind of like an artistic successor, to put it best. So that animation style will now be transcended onto She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So I would say that overall, yeah, this definitely looks like a promising trailer that would deliver a potentially great series for DreamWorks Animation. And a lot of people really do seem to agree, because even the reception that I am seeing excuse me, that had to just come out a little bit. My burp approves of what I say. But anyways, let's go back into this. I will say, though, that it does seem like it is starting to get a lot more appeal to people. Now, like, a lot more people are starting to be more convinced, and, you know, like, kind of like stop being onto the hater side and just complaining about the small aspects of things. And now that we see more and more of the big picture, it is starting to get more positive reactions. Like, if you see on YouTube right over here, so far as I'm recording this, there are less than 1,000 dislikes, but it does have very close to 6,000 likes. So it would definitely say a lot that, you know, there's a lot less hate going on with She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. So it definitely does look like something that could have a lot of potential. And now that people are starting to see what this series will be about, they are starting to be convinced that maybe it could turn out good. Maybe people can look over how She-Ra looks like, what her design is, and they'll see what more that this series has to deliver. So I'm definitely convinced this could actually turn out to be a lot of fun, and definitely better than the last trailer that we just saw. So yeah, this definitely does look promising, and I say good on DreamWorks for delivering a great trailer with this. So if you guys are excited for this, coincidentally, it is going to be coming out at the same time as Kung Fu Panda: The Paws of Destiny, which this series will be coming out on November 16th, but with this one, it will be releasing on Netflix. So, with that said and done, let me go onto the chat wall, and I want to give the mic to them, and I want to know, what do you guys think about this trailer of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power? Are you guys impressed with it? Do you think this is a lot better than you might probably expect? Or are you still not sold with it? Are you still against this series? I would like to know, what do you guys think of this? Alright, now let's see. Again, looks good, visual style looks nice, no opinion, yada yada yada. I know I haven't really written an entire paragraph here, but other than some cool animation sequences, I really don't have anything else to say. I will most likely be checking it out though. Okay, so one is sold on the animation. Okay. One isn't, though. I don't really like the animation of this, but I still believe the show is going to have a lot of promise. I'll check it out when it gets released. So I think that is kind of the main thing. We all kind of have a grasp on the animation, but I think the main thing to sell over here is actually going to be regarding the story, because that's probably the biggest thing that this trailer pretty much shows us, is what this will all be about, including all the different characters. Let's see. I guess I don't mind checking this show out. I never watched DreamWorks shows on Netflix or recently Amazon Prime before, and have been a fan of She-Ra, but this show seems to have some promise to me. So I'll look into it whether I'll give it a chance by the time the show comes out. Okay. So that is interesting to know. Okay. So yeah, I think we got everything to say right over here. So yeah, it does look like something that can have a little bit more promise. So maybe we will get more of a chance. And, oh, and yeah, I see someone has asked about the 3 Below trailer. I have seen it, but it doesn't necessarily reveal a lot since it's only 30 seconds. But I will promise you that when the official trailer does come, when we do see the first full trailer of 3 Below, I'll definitely be talking about it, especially coming from someone who really does like what we got so far with Troll Hunters, and I want to see what the continuation of the Tales of Arcadia, what we have. So, okay. Now, with all that, never been a fan of She-Ra to me is what I was trying to say. Oh, okay. Now, I got you, dude. I got you. Okay, so I think we're all good so far with She-Ra, and I think we're all good so far with all the trailers. Now, for our next story, we're going to spice things up a little bit, and we're going to go into something that's a little bit more different. In fact, we're going to go into a news that I believe we have not had in a very long time, and I think it's honestly a bit due. Now, do you guys remember when we used to have all the time just announcement after announcement of a live-action remake of a Disney movie? They used to pop up so much, but nowadays, it seems like those news have been a little bit on the down low, especially when Disney is just mainly focusing right now on developing the ones that they have right now, like Lady and the Tramp, with Aladdin, The Lion King, Dumbo, and all those ones that are going to be coming out in 2019. So, honestly, like, I think Disney missed trying to do those, so you know what? Let's go ahead and have another announcement so far. So, let's go ahead and reveal that yes, Disney will be making a live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. Yes, it is official. Disney is going to be currently working on a live-action remake of the 2002 animated film Lilo and Stitch. Now, so far, the only people that are on board are Dan Lin and Jonathan A. Rich, who are going to be involved as the producers with their company Rideback that used to be called Sony Pictures, which, on a side note, those two producers, Lynn and Irish, they're already working with Disney as producers for the live-action remake of Aladdin, but also they got a writer so far, and he actually goes by the name of Mike Van Wees, and he is actually going to be writing the script for this live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. Now, some of you might not know who he is, and to be fair, probably nobody knows who he is so far, because the thing is, this is actually an up-and-coming writer. He has worked with big studios, but his movies are not released yet. So, going into my source here in The Hollywood Reporter, just gonna read a little bit of a passage. It states that Van Wees is better known in Hollywood circles as a writer of horror fare. He penned The Crooked Man, based on a character from New Line's The Conjuring 2, and which is being developed as a Conjuring universe spin-off. He also wrote Not in Kansas, a Wizard of Oz themed horror project set up at New Line. So basically the whole picture is that yes, Disney is going to be making a live action remake of Lilo and Stitch from two producers that are already producing the Aladdin remake, and it's going to be from a writer who has so far only done upcoming horror films for New Line. Now, let me just start things off and be a little serious for a moment. And I'm just going to ask the big question. Who asked for this? I'm going to be very honest. Even for the people who actually do like the live-action remakes of Disney movies, did anybody really ask for a live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch? Honestly, now we are starting to be at the point where Disney is grasping for straws. Because, okay, I'll give them that I do understand going into their big classics. Like, okay, fine. I get why they would go and remake stuff like Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, and even some of Walt Disney's classics like Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella. Those things have really made a huge impact on cinema and on animation and on top of pop culture in general. So I can see the appeal of trying to remake those films. But Lilo and Stitch, however, that movie isn't even 20 years old. Keep in mind, that film was released in 2002. I was about to say 2022, but then again, that could be this film's release date. And honestly, I have never seen a single person demanding that Disney would do a live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch. And it honestly just doesn't make sense. Now, the thing with Lilo and Stitch, the only thing that really is significant about it is that it was pretty much the only, or at least the most successful Disney animated movie from the 2000s. Like, Lilo and Stitch, it was the most successful film at a time when Disney needed a hit, because they were not doing well with many of their other movies, like Fantasia 2000 flopped, New Groove flopped, Treasure Planet flopped, and so on and so forth. They were not doing well, but at least with Stitch, like, that turned out to be a hit, and Disney really capitalized on Stitch's success hard. Like, not only having him appear all around the Disney parks and stuff like that, but really trying to make Stitch. I remember, like, when I would go to Disney World in the mid-2000s, they would try to advertise Stitch almost like he is the equivalent of Mickey Mouse and Tinkerbell. So, honestly, it's just the factor that Stitch is popular, why they would go and remake this. I guess they want to try to cash in on the nostalgia for people who grew up in the 2000s. I guess they want to try to get into that market more so than the 90s, because it's almost being dried up now, unless they really want to try to go and literally do every single live action remake of every movie in the Disney Renaissance. Because, I mean, what do they have left now? They got, like, The Little Mermaid. They would be crazy if they would do Rescuers Down Under. What else? They got Pocahontas, they got Hunchback, they got Hercules, and they got Tarzan. That's all that's left that they gotta do. The rest is pretty much filled up so far, or it's going to be coming soon. But honestly, with Lilo and Stitch, yeah, I don't see really the point of this, especially with fans of Lilo and Stitch those people certainly do not demand it. Like, sure, they adore Stitch, they love Stitch, even down to the point that they love Lilo and Stitch too, and they would probably watch the animated TV shows as well. But seeing Stitch return in this, that honestly, I just don't get. I don't see the point, especially when it comes to the animation. This is probably the most Chris Sanders movie that you can ever get. Now, I know with Chris Sanders, he did work a lot in Disney films, and of course, like, you could debate some of his other movies as well, like How to Train Your Dragon, and also The Croods. Like, those are his movies as well. But really, if you have to pick one that really does define his art style, it's hands down Lilo and Stitch. Like, you look at these characters, they don't look like Disney characters. This is hands down a Chris Sanders art style as well. And I'll throw in Dean DeBlois as well. I mean, like, the dude is also another great director. So, yeah, like, he also pitched in and making some great artwork. But honestly, turning this into live action would kind of lose that style. It would lose that substance. And like, oh, you're gonna make Stitch CGI. Well, I mean, we already have freaking Toothless, and especially his head is kind of modeled after Stitch. So really, I don't see the point in why do we need to have a Lilo and Stitch live action remake, and especially this one, technically, with Lilo and Stitch, yeah, as popular as it is, it's not as big as many of the other big Disney movies. So honestly, the way that I see it, they might execute this in the same way that they would with Christopher Robin. That they're not going to make like a big spectacle out of it with a huge budget, but mostly just like Hawaiian people walking around with a CGI alien character. That's the way that I see it so far. So honestly, for me, I don't necessarily see the point of having this, and yeah, now it's at the point where it does make Disney look a bit desperate of remaking all their popular movies at once. So honestly, for me, that's just not really that great so far. For me, I'm not really convinced. I'm not sold on the idea, and yeah, I don't know if this is really something for me. So, with all that said and done, though, I would like to know and ask you guys on the chat wall, oh boy, this is gonna get explosive. What do you guys think of the live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch? Are you guys hopeful for this? Are you guys excited that this will be coming out, that this thing is gonna be made? Or are you guys not happy about this? Let's see now. I'm boycotting all of Disney's live-action remakes, even The Lion King, one of my favorite movies. Okay, oh my god. I think it's ridiculous that Disney is making a remake for a film that isn't 2 decades old. All I'm praying for is that Stitch won't look like an abomination. I probably won't see this in theaters because I'm just giving my money to Disney and they'll probably just make more remakes, okay? What about Christopher Robin? That was possibly the best film they've done without making it into a remake. Well, I mean, the thing is, I would debate Christopher Robin does count as a Disney live-action remake because that's kind of like the whole purpose of it. That's kind of like the reason why Christopher Robin exists. It's taking an animated property that Disney has done and turn it into a live-action film. So, anyways, how many people do we have? Oh my god, like a lot of people have something to say about this. It's crazy. I am very nervous for this movie because I love the original Lilo and Stitch, and them turning it into a live-action film might just ruin it. I just hope that they make Stitch look good in CGI, but they have to do a lot in order to do that. I feel like this is just something that Disney just announced so that they can make a quick buck. What's next? A live-action remake of Home on the Range? No, Disney, just no. Oh my god. I would love to see Disney just trolling people, just announce a live-action remake of, oh, actually, no, you know what? Actually, please do so. Actually, make a new live-action reimagining of Home on the Range, but this time, make the Roseanne Barr cow the bad person in all this. Oh my god. Like, just go in, like, you'll see... You know, just see this, oh my god, like, yeah, just come in, see just this angry Roseanne Barr coming in. I thought that cow was black and white! Oh my god, that would actually be an interesting idea right there. Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, yeah. Let's see. It's a bit too soon to remake Lilo and Stitch since it's not really that old. If this is to continue, I could definitely see them giving Snow White a production. Judging by the history with these films, the dwarves will most likely be all portrayed by Russell Crowe, and Snow White will be Emma Stone. Oh my god, yes, we gotta have freaking Russell Crowe as, I honestly, I would love to see Russell Crowe as all the seven dwarfs. Well, especially, like, giving him a solo of Hi-Ho. Just have seven Russell Crowes, like, Hi-Ho, 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 it's off to work we go. I don't know how to whistle. Hi-Ho, Hi-Ho. Oh my god. But yeah, I could see that, honestly, a lot of people here are not happy when it comes to the subject of this movie in particular. Oh boy, yeah. So I think it's time that we need to go and escape this, because I can already see that it is bursting a lot of people's minds with this subject in particular. And now it shall be time that we will go into the grand finale. Yes, we are going on to our final story. And unfortunately, though, we might have to put off a bit on a sad note, because this is something that just recently it happened, and I just stumbled upon it on Facebook just when it was announced, and really, it was a moment that it did break my heart a little bit, because it definitely was someone that I did a lot of research on. He seemed like a very fascinating person, and I only heard great things so far about the guy, but yeah, I guess honestly, we might as well go into the final story in which I will be dedicating this episode to. So yes, unfortunately, Will Vinton has sadly passed away. Now, in order to describe the whole scenario of what happened, I'm going to go and read from Will Vinton's official Facebook page, which has been written by his kids. So I got it right over here. So let me just read this little passage. So it says, "This morning our father, Will Vinton, passed away, surrounded by love from his family. Will has endured a 12-year battle with multiple myeloma. Okay, Will has endured a 12-year battle with multiple myeloma, although you never would have known of this fight. For the vast majority of that time, he conjured forward in his life with strength, positivity, and humor, enjoying tropical getaways, shepherding new creative ventures, and caring for his two sons, daughter, and wife. Will was the strongest man we have ever known, both in his work ethic and his mental resolve. He always said, 'Do good, and everything else will follow.' And he never gave up on the things that were important to him. He saw the world as an imaginative playground full of fantasy, joy, and character. He instilled us with greatest values of creativity, strength, and pride in one's own work. He created stories and characters filled with laughter, music, and powerful lessons that are globally beloved. He brightened any room with his signature mustache, and he continued to make jokes and laugh until the very end. His work will live on in animation history and will continue to inspire creative thinkers and makers. We grieve heavily as our dad leaves a hole in our lives that will be impossible to fill. His wishes were for us to continue the projects he has started. We will try our best to do so. We will honor him in our own work and strive to always embody his lessons. We ask that his passing be a celebration of his life and work. He wouldn't want us to be sad or discouraged, but rather to celebrate the wonder and beauty of life in his name. We ask for support and understanding for our family during this time. Please leave a comment if there's something you would like to share about our father. We love you, Dad, Billy, Jesse, and Alex. A celebration of our father's life will take place at Non-Vacancy Lounge from 3 p.m. or yeah, from 3 p.m. on Sunday, on October 21st, which is going to be, of course, in Portland, Oregon. And on top of that, I do want to read an additional quote. This time is actually going to be from Mark Evans, which, if you guys don't know, is actually the creator of a documentary which is going to be coming out next year that is commemorative entirely to Will Vinton, which is called Welcome to My Daydream, in which it actually says over here, "We are very sad and sorry to share the news that Will Vinton passed away this morning. Will was an incredible man that lived a fascinating creative life. His characters and lifetime of work will live on, along with the memories of the countless lives he touched. Will was the most positive person I've ever met, and that sentiment was shared by many people we've interviewed over the past couple of years. Getting to know Will during the making of this film has been a gift, and our entire team learned so much from him. We'll cherish the memories and are motivated even more to complete a film that honors Will and his legacy." You can read the post from his family, from literally what I showed you, and leave a comment with anything you would like to share with his family. So you know what? At this point, I might as well do exactly like what his kids would want, and just going to be talking about the life of Will Vinton. And as you guys probably know, if you guys do follow my videos, or if you're a fan of my YouTube channel and stuff like that, then you probably know that I have done an entire animation look back on Will Vinton. It is part of the Best of Stop Motion series, and the video was a little over 30 minutes, chronicling the entire career of Will Vinton. Starting from his humble beginnings, where he was just working with clay, and he actually won an Oscar for the animated short Closed Mondays in the 70s. And from there, I would also talk about the movies that he worked on, from his film The Adventures of Mark Twain to The Return of Oz to Moonwalker. Now, just to tell you guys, if you don't know who Will Vinton is in general, this is one of the most important figures in stop motion. This is the man who made clay a legitimate animation medium. And for a while, like throughout the 80s and 90s, his style was actually an icon. It was very easily recognizable. And he has actually done a lot of commercials, he has done a lot of TV shows, and of course, like some of the movies that I have mentioned. On top of the films that I've brought up, like Return to Oz, Moonwalker, and The Adventures of Mark Twain, he has also worked on the Disney ride Captain EO, and he's also very well known for creating commercials such as the California Raisins, the Noid, and even his studio was actually the creators of the M&M characters. Like, you know, blue and not blue, but well, blue does count, but especially with red and yellow, yeah, that was actually developed at Will Vinton. And of course, a lot of people have actually worked with Will Vinton, and one of the biggest significance is actually the creator of Hey Arnold actually started at Will Vinton, where he actually developed the character Arnold there. And even the first one of the first animated shorts of Arnold was actually with Claymation at Will Vinton Studios. So, of course, he did lay a really big impact onto animation. And looking at his style and the things that he has done, you know, it's even for someone like me who grew up in the 90s, I remember when his art style was definitely commonplace, and especially with the term claymation. Like, that is honestly the biggest thing that he brought onto the world, claymation. And it's not just with those commercials, but even with TV specials as well. There are a lot of people who do have fond memories of, like, Claymation Halloween, Claymation Christmas, or Claymation Easter, and all that kind of stuff with those characters in particular. And I do remember a few times when, like, either the California Raisins or, like, even the Noid for Domino's Pizza, when they would be popping up, and, like, he would go on to create characters that would make a huge impact on commercials in general. Like, this man alone really did define how like creating characters for commercials would eventually become, and would give us later on characters such as like the Travelocity Gnome, or Captain Obvious, or Flo, or any of those guys right there. And honestly, with the impact that he has left off, sure, maybe not many people would know the name Will Vinton specifically, but his impact with what he has done, it definitely did revolutionize stop motion animation. Like, honestly, with what he has given us, he definitely is one of the most important people in stop motion history. And the reason why I say that is not because you look at his projects. It's not because of how big his fan base would be. You look at the non-fans, the people that might not necessarily know who Will Vinton is. Now, I don't know if this has happened to you a few times, or if this has happened like many times with people that you know or on the internet in general. But when you talk with non-animation fans, it's actually quite fascinating when they would discuss about stop motion films. Like when you would go and talk to someone about Coraline, they would go and say, "Oh yeah, Coraline. Yeah, I've seen that Claymation movie. Yeah, that's actually pretty good." Now, just realize, just take a moment to really think and reflect upon that. Claymation has often been used as a term for stop motion animation. This really does say a lot about the impact that Will Vinton has on the medium. This man right here literally, not metaphorically, literally defined stop motion animation as it is, where even people to this day are still referring it as claymation. And even with the stuff that he would do later on, like, even if things don't necessarily work out, the things that would branch out from his works would later leave a big impact. Like, one of the biggest twists about the story of Will Vinton is that his studio would later be taken over by Nike owner Phil Knight, and Travis Knight would go on and be in charge of the whole studio, and surprisingly actually do a good job in putting in a lot of effort. And it would then go on become Laika, where they would go on and make movies such as Coraline, The Box Trolls, Paranorman, Kubo and the Two Strings, and the upcoming Missing Link. So yeah, the thing is with Will Vinton, he really did a lot for stop motion in the past, in the present, and in the future, and really using stop motion as a very important tool to go and really just define a whole generation. Like, you can even ask if you can ask someone, what does animation look like in the 80s or in the 90s and stuff like that? Like, they will mostly point to you to Will Vinton with his style. Like, in the 80s with all the California Raisins and with the Noid, and then in the 90s they'll point to you with stuff like the PJs and stuff like that, you know? And even in the 80s as well, with the way that he impacted with celebrities, especially with Michael Jackson, working on stuff like Captain EO, and also with Moonwalker. Like, that really did define who Will Vinton is. Like, this really did define a whole decade, this man's animation defined an entire generation. So I know I've said that a few times, but really, Will Vinton definitely is one of the most important people in the history of stop motion. This was a key player to really define what stop motion is to this day, and for that, I definitely do thank him. And with that said, this is also a reason why I'm definitely excited for the upcoming documentary, Welcome to My Daydream by Mark Evans. I've already done an interview with Mark Evans on my YouTube channel. You can go and check that one out if you want. And honestly, seeing his life and actually doing research of my own to know who Will Vinton is, it honestly is very fascinating to go and look at this man's journey of how he once was really at the top of animation, and really at the top, like, he was the definitive man who was making American stop motion animation. Like, this was, like, Will Vinton was the American equivalent of Aardman. that's how big this guy really is. And especially with all the Emmys that he won, with the Oscar that he won, with all the different awards, like, it definitely was something to, like, he did, like, this man really did make an impact. And yeah, he definitely was awarded very well. So as for me, if I had any personal things with Will Vinton outside of making animation look back, Will Vinton, like, making the animation look back episode of Will Vinton, I would have to say that there have been a lot of moments, I would say, whether it be just checking out the commercials and stuff like that. I will say his involvement of Captain EO was definitely a lot of fun to see. Like, even though, like, it was just real, it was brief, it was very short, because I remember in Captain EO, what happened was that there was some of his stop motion involved, but it was mostly turning some of the robots into musical instruments. Like, even though it was brief, it was definitely a time where, like, it did help make Captain EO so cheesy as we know it today. Like, because Captain EO is one of the most 80s things that Disney has ever created, and with the addition of Will Vinton, it's just like, it really did add into it. It really did put in a bit of that extra right over there. That, and also, I will say, I have seen, of course, The Adventures of Mark Twain, the movie in general, and I remember when, on the internet, it was so huge when people would mention about, oh, this is a banned cartoon. Like, you remember the moment with like, when, the characters of that movie would hang out with the devil, and that little clip would be put up on YouTube, and it would go viral as this banned cartoon. Oh, it's so scandalous, it's so dark. No, they don't want to show this on television and stuff like that. But the movie itself, I would have to say, it is really impressive, especially the fact when it's the only movie in the world that is 100% made out of clay. Like, that is a major achievement in itself right there. So, honestly, with all that, just looking into, like, the way they made Mark Twain and the whole story, and honestly, I'm just gonna say right now, if you guys are a fan of Mark Twain, if you enjoy reading his books, then you gotta check out The Adventures of Mark Twain. Like, that is definitely the ultimate tribute right there. In fact, what we just saw with Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, imagine that, but you take all the Mark Twain characters, like, replace the theme of Spider-Man with Mark Twain. That is what you get with The Adventures of Mark Twain. So it definitely is something that is worth checking out, with so many nods and tributes to many of Mark Twain's stories right there. So yeah, that's some of my personal connections that I do have with Mark Twain, with Will Vinton. And I just want to say, to Mr. Vinton, my biggest regret is that I haven't met you in person, and I wish I would have. But honestly, thank you for the major impact that you have done in animation, and thank you for your amazing projects, whether they just be commercials or entire movies like Adventures of Mark Twain. Honestly, may your legacy forever live on, and may Claymation forever stand as an entire animation medium. So with all that said, I would like to go into the chat wall so far, and I would like to know, what do you guys think about Will Vinton? Do you have any personal stories that you guys would like to share about Will Vinton? Do you have any personal things you would like to say regarding any personal things you want to talk about related to Will Vinton? Okay, let's see. I heard about this yesterday, and even though he has not been a part of my childhood, I like as though we lost a beloved legend. Rest in peace, Will Vinton. Your impact in animation will be missed, along with your awesome mustache. Ah, yes. Yeah, we cannot forget about the mustache. That's probably the most recognizable thing of them all. It's like, you cannot get, like, with his mustache, you cannot get more fine than this. This is almost like cartoon level mustache, but like the way that he trimmed it, he groomed it, like just that mustache in particular, man. that is just amazing. That is something to truly behold, man. Like, you know, like he really is one step away from looking like the Monopoly guy, I swear. Let's see. It really saddens me. I'm really saddened by the passing since he revolutionized one part of animation. He won't be forgotten, and he also directed Mark Twain movie. May he rest in peace. Also, wasn't Isle of Dogs 100% in claymation? No, it wasn't in claymation. That's stop motion. Different story. No, with Mark Twain, it's 100% made of clay. That's the big difference. Okay, anyways. I saw your animation look back on Will Vinton. I had a fun time. Vinton did make CGI live-action projects before adaptation atrocities, and made clay an animation medium. Thank you, Will Vinton. All right, that's nice. That's nice right over there. Anything else? He has a Mario mustache. No, that's not Mario. That's not even. No, that's not. No, that's a mustache of his own. That's not even. All right. Any other comments that you would like to share? I may not have known him too well, but I know he was quite an inspiration of stop motion and commercials today. Plus, one work I know him from is Michael Jackson's Moonwalker Speed Demon segment, which is one of my favorite movies from the 80s, and Captain EO at Disneyland. So, Will Vinton, thank you for your time in life. All right. That's very nice. That's very nice. So, yeah, I think we all have our words about Will Vinton, and I think with all that said and done, that should be an episode of the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So with all that said, I would like to thank you so much, you guys, for watching this, and thank you so much just for listening and contributing for this episode in particular, especially with all the fascinating stories that we got so far. So hopefully next week we will have more crazy news stories and more things to go and discuss about. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!